that we had a very rich and necessary discussion around some of the risks associated with Chinese investment, but also doing business with certain Chinese companies. That very clearly, there are huge problems with supply chain transparency and with human rights standards in the northwest of China and in businesses dealing with that area. We have to do everything we possibly can to disentangle our businesses to protect our consumers from complicity in terrible human rights abuses. The Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China has a shared position on China, which is that it presents a huge challenge to the rules-based and human rights orders. And on that basis, it tries to campaign for democratic countries to reform their policies towards China, so that we can face up to the reality of what the Chinese Communist Party under Xi Jinping actually is. So that's what we do in IPAC, that's what we'll continue to do until we see a substantive reform from our own democratic governments. Well, I think a lot hinges upon what happens in the South China Sea, or particularly around Taiwan. If, as has been declared by certain figures within the Chinese Communist Party, there is either a blockade or something even worse that happens around the island of Taiwan, then we will see a forced decoupling between our supply chains, our economies, and the Chinese economy, which will be devastatingly impactful if it's not dealt with now. So I think what I'd say about it is we need to prepare for that eventuality. We need to manage the risks around investing in China and China investing in us. And we need to do that very urgently before economies become so entwined that it is incredibly painful to do so, which is more likely to be the case the longer we wait. We definitely need to see minimum standards of disclosure and transparency imposed upon our own businesses so that we don't have a situation where our shelves are filling up with slave-made goods from the Uyghur region of China. And nobody wants that. Our governments don't want that. But at the moment, we don't have the tools to prevent that. So there will be an IPAC position on that point. We need to see that. In the EU, we have to see human rights due diligence legislation properly constructed and then properly implemented. And we're going to be campaigning for that on an ongoing basis.